Hey, Joel.
Yeah?
Hey, I've got a really good idea.
I'm ready for it.
What if we made a podcast? Welcome to Joel and Uriah's Terrible Ideas. I am Uriah.
I'm Joel.
And this is our podcast. Can you believe it? They just let us have one.
Wait, who is they that lets us have one of these?
I could go into the list of like everywhere that we're platformed, and that could technically be the answer. But also, we could just say the grown-ups.
Yeah, I'm not a grown-up yet.
No, definitely
not at all.
not.
man, that they trust me to be an adult and have kids and do things in the world is just.
I know.
It still astounds me some days.
I think that those grown-ups that let us be grown-ups kind of made a bad decision sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they let us have a podcast. The ubiquitous they.
Yes.
The man decided it was okay.
Yes.
That we had a podcast.
Yeah, they and when they said we could have a podcast, they said it should be about us taking turns telling each other about a terrible idea and then seeing if we can give it enough oomph to exist in the world without ever actually making it exist in the world with like concrete steps.
Because for some reason, if there is something Uriah and I excel at, it's that. Terrible ideas with lots of thought and no follow through.
No execution whatsoever. We could have made a podcast about anything, any of our shared interests, and this is the thing we decided to do.
We did something with Star Wars for a bit. We have tossed around some other ideas, but no, this is the one. This is the one. This is to the wall.
Yep. And you know what? And honestly, I kind of love that it is sticking to the wall, right? Like that we've gone ahead and made this a weekly thing instead of what we were doing before.
Right.
Because now I was like, we can really like laser in on the thing that we both enjoyed the most and that I think turns out the best.
But can we at least like acknowledge that 2+ year hiatus just proves that our original podcast was actually a terrible idea? The first one we did, the meta podcast where we're like, hey, let's do a podcast and let's see how far we get along with execution.
Approximately 20 weeks, if you count both of the shows together.
Oh, it's good. All right, so it's not my turn this week.
It's not.
I had the idea last week.
We're gonna actually continue in the grand tradition of season 2 of the co-host accidentally setting us up perfectly. You're talking
perfect,
right? So you talked about you mentioned our other show, right? The Star Wars show, Intercepted Transmissions.
Yeah.
Today, while I was doing some work on the podcast, I moved all of the old files for that show into a folder called Old, which I will probably never open again.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
yep.
I sort of had this little mini funeral for it as I was putting it in. I thought, well, that was fun, but now it's done.
I have a file like that, except I call it archive because I don't like the word old. It makes me feel like I'm saving something from it.
As opposed to just letting it die.
Yes.
No, so the way that you were setting me up for this, right? I want to take one last crack at Star Wars in our podcast form.
Okay.
And so the terrible idea is I want to tell a Star Wars story that hasn't been told yet.
Okay, so this is kind of like the Disney princess one we just did, but Star Wars and not necessarily princesses.
Right, yeah. It's like that, except it's not like that at all.
just that we're coming up with a movie idea.
It doesn't have to be a movie.
Oh, okay.
So
Book,
Star
comic,
Wars, anybody
cartoon.
It could be a cartoon, a live action show, a comic book, a novel, a audiobook, which is usually just a novel turned into with read. They do a much better job with the Star Wars audiobooks. That's not the point. The cool thing about Star Wars, right? It could be a video game. It could be literally all of these things at once. Shadows of the Empire in the 90s was that. It was like this cross-platform, intermediate.
I'm not aware of this.
Oh, dude, look it up. It's awesome.
Okay.
You learn a lot more about all those bounty hunters that were standing on the bridge of the Star Destroyer in Empire Strikes Back. It's all about not all about, but a big part of it is the search for Han Solo after Boba Fett takes him away from Bespin.
Okay.
So it's all very good. It's very interesting. It was this really great idea it was so hyped up in certain platforms that people thought it was another movie. And it wasn't. It was like comic books and novels and video games and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, all that to say, we don't have to constrain ourselves to making a film. I think we can focus on some of the story beats, and then we can decide how that plays out in different avenues.
That's what I was just about to suggest, that let's first figure out the story and then figure out the best way that story is communicated rather than sticking. I think that's how they do it anyway. They don't start saying, all right, we're going to make another movie. What's a good story to tell in a movie? No, they say, all right, what's the stories we've got? What's the best way we can tell that story?
Maybe. I don't know. The most...
I don't know who they is, but...
More of those grown-ups, I think.
Probably.
These are the Lucasfilm grown-ups.
The real grown-ups. The ones that never grew up and continue to live in a Star Wars fantasy universe. I like those grown-ups.
They seem like pretty all right folks.
Okay. All right. Did you have an initial thought to get that ball rolling?
Well, the only thought that I had was it has to be a story that hasn't been told yet. And we've seen a lot of stories about Jedi. And we've seen now a handful of stories about bounty hunters. We have a few stories about like soldier types. But what we don't have is like the everyman Joe or Jane in Star Wars. We don't have their story.
Okay. So the normal guy, I thought, to be fair, I thought you were about to say we don't have the story from the Sith perspective.
Oh.
And I thought you were going to suggest that. And I was going to be like, I don't know a whole lot about that. So I'm glad you went the direction you did. I'm going to be fair with you.
Oh, we do have some villainous perspective in stories, right? There was the Tarkin book was pretty good. There's Darth Plagueis, which I haven't read. There's a ton of EU books on this. I think that the Sith angle, right, like that angle has been covered pretty well. But I just don't think we have a good like everyday person, maybe thrust into an extraordinary situation. But like, what's it like to live on Coruscant, or what's it like to be a farmer on Naboo? We don't know these. We haven't answered these questions. I think there's a lot of room to play in that space.
There is, in the Aftermath stories, they do follow a young Snap Wexley, and it kind of starts out like that. He's a very everyday kind of kid just trying to make his way in the universe on Jakku and the backwards...
Not Jakku, Akiva.
Yes, sorry. Yes, Akiva. It starts out that way, but then he becomes a much bigger player as the story goes on, and even, the role is seen in episode 7, 8, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
So he becomes a bigger character. Would you want to do something like that, like the humble beginnings of somebody who becomes something later, or you just want straight, this is the guy that nobody ever knew about?
What if we just did a romantic comedy in Star Wars? It's not like...
Okay.
When you started saying that out loud, I was like, oh yeah, we kind of do have that. Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker.
Like that's also true.
These are stories that
I remember reading the Phasma book, and you got a whole community of people.
Yeah.
Before she left.
Yeah.
So they're always the like humble beginnings stories.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
So what if we did the
I
humble
see a romantic comedy.
The humble 30s story?
Somebody that's just truly trying to make their way in the universe, but there's a lot of stuff going on around them.
Yeah, I'm thinking, how do you go about navigating? It's a farmer on maybe not Naboo, somewhere.
I feel like setting will matter here.
Setting will matter here, but I think there's a lot of play right now in that window between the fall of the Empire and the rise of the First Order. Right? Like the Mandalorian is in that time window. We're presumably Ahsoka is presumably going to be in that time window. So I think maybe that's a space we should stick to. So we can talk about, right, like there's a lot going on in the galaxy. A stable, if evil, government has just fallen and is now being replaced slowly at times by a new, less stable government. So like, what does it look like to live on one of those planets that's maybe taking a long time for the New Republic to get its stuff together?
So mid-rim to outer rim somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're on a mid-rim planet. I like that idea. I like that it's a mid-rim planet. I'm thinking Ord Mantell, but like I'll be honest with you. You don't know where that is.
I don't know the map. Like, I have so badly wanted like a Star Wars universe map of all the planets and where they are. Mm-hmm. The problem is, if anybody ever makes one, the instant they make it, it's out of date because they keep adding more planets, which is awesome because it's an infinite universe. It's great. I really want one because I don't remember the names outside of a placement on a map.
I think the most recent one came out in like late last year. They did a drop of stuff at Target. Okay. And one of the books, I want to say it was the cookbook, had a map. It had a galaxy map in it.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
I could be wrong. I might fact check myself in editing later, but I'm pretty sure there is one that's relatively recent. So you could get one that is still in date now, as of time of recording.
Right. Ord Mantell, is that what you said?
Ord Mantell, yeah.
What major happens there, pray tell?
You don't actually see Ord Mantell in any of the movies. It's mentioned briefly at the start of Empire Strikes Back. Han's talking about leaving, and he says that bounty hunter on Ord Mantell changed my mind. Because he hadn't gone back and paid Jabba back yet. By the way, go pay Jabba, you idiot.
Right.
How many of our problems could have been solved if we just done that? Ord Mantell is too deep a cut. I realize now that as I'm saying that out loud, that's probably not a good pick. We should at least pick something from the movie.
What about Mon Calamari?
I like Mon Calamari. That's a good one.
I mean, that gives us a whole set of characters. It gives us a water type planet to work with, so that can create some interesting stuff to work with.
And no one has ever told the story of how Admiral Akbar fell in love with his wife.
Right. Do we know that he's married?
I don't know that. I made that up as I was talking.
Well, I mean, we don't know that he's not.
That's true. Hey, and for all we know, you know what? And maybe he's not. Maybe Admiral Akbar is just married to Home One. Because,
Maybe he is. Or maybe there's a whole story as to why he ended up leaving. I mean, who knows? Anyway, we don't have to tell his story.
Yes, that's the story.
There is part of the story.
That's the story. No, okay, go.
There's a few episodes in Clone Wars where Admiral Akbar is a young captain.
Yes, he is working for the key.
Yes, there is a story already about him.
Okay. But sometime between Clone Wars and the Battle of Scarif, he decides to switch, and he goes from not being the admiral of the Rebel fleet to suddenly being the admiral of the Rebel fleet. So, there's room, I think. And who doesn't want a Mon Cala love story?
That does get a little weird in the image banks there.
I'm not going to tell you the things that I have popped up on Google for me accidentally. I spent a lot of time on Star Wars subreddits.
Ew. Honestly, that makes me want to go away from Mon Calamari now. Be fair with you.
Okay. So there are some other places. Let's just like rapid fire up. Like there's lots of places in Star Wars, right?
Right. Ryloth.
Oh, actually, Ryloth could be good.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the Clone Wars, they were struggling with their whole independence situation.
Right.
So maybe they just figured it all out. Oh, Joel, it's the story of Hera and her kid. Spoiler alert. You finished Rebels, right?
Yes, I finished Rebels.
Okay, good. Yeah, anyways, it's the story of Hera Syndulla. No, because she's not an every person. She's a hero.
She's a hero. Yeah. Here's the thing. We can pick Ryloth. We just make up new characters.
It's Hera Syndulla's neighbor.
There you go. It can be people who know Hera.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be... I mean, it can be people who know and have encountered all of these others.
Right. Because, like, that's one of the best things about the Star Wars universe, right? Is that it all intertwines.
It could be the lady that raised Hera, because we don't know anything about her parents. It could be like the aunt figure who inspired her to do more than what...
Isn't her dad Cham Syndulla, who's like a...
Yes, okay, yes. Oh my gosh. This is, I think, why we gave up.
This is harder than we think. To try, even just like try to come, like to invent a nobody is a difficult task.
Because we want to invent a nobody that has a connection with a somebody.
Right.
I mean, we literally could just invent a nobody. Not hard at all. I almost am enjoying more the idea of truly a nobody that has no connection to anyone.
Oh, like Ray was supposed to be?
No, literally a nobody.
Yeah.
Somebody who gets the news report about stuff and like, I don't know.
No, I like that. I like that a lot.
It's them digesting. We don't have to try to tie in any individual person except for a random smuggler or bounty hunter or somebody comes to the planet and there's just rumors of these guys. They don't actually ever meet them.
Sure.
There's just the rumors and the news and the, him or her trying to figure out in conversation with the neighbors what's actually happening out there in the beyond. How much does it actually matter for us here as I'm farming?
I mean, there's the moisture farmers on Tatooine.
There are the moisture farmers.
That seems like a pretty reasonable, right? Like they're connected enough. There's enough goings on Tatooine to be interesting, and to not always get the full story every time something happens.
Meluron. That's what I was trying to think of.
What?
A Meluron farmer.
Oh, what was going on Lothal?
But Meluron don't grow on Lothal. That was the joke
that's right.
of that episode.
That's right.
We don't know where they're grown.
I mean, it's got to be somewhere.
Right? And so we just make it up as we go.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so Meluron farmer on Kashyyyk? No, too many Wookiees.
No.
Also, too much like drama. There's a lot of things that happen on Kashyyyk.
Right. One that is in mid-rim, but a little bit out of the way. Ultar?
Okay,
Ultar?
If it's such a deep cut that even I am not going to recognize it, I don't think that's a good pick. I think that's maybe too nobody.
All right. So, on a planet that people will recognize, but not somebody that can be recognized.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about Bespin? Maybe instead of a Meluron farmer on Bespin, what if it was, or on somewhere, what if we had like a city person, like an office worker at Cloud City?
Okay. Cloud City, Bespin. Afterwards, we do know that Lando shows back up to take over that place again. Mm-hmm. We get that from...
There's a scene in the Aftermath books.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, there's a scene in the Aftermath books. But from there, we get to the point where at some point in time, Lando would have gone on these missions with Luke to try to find...
The Sith Wayfinder.
Yes. Thank you.
Because they're trying to find Exegol.
Yeah, so some point in there, he gets back there, he gets back to Bespin. Don't know exactly what happens there, and he eventually goes off on runs with Luke until he finally leaves and stays on that one planet from episode 9.
Octo.
Again.
Oh, no, you're talking about Lando. Lando was on Pisana.
Lando. If it doesn't have a spot on a map, I won't remember it.
Hey, where's Luke from?
Tatooine.
Okay, where's Leia from?
Alderaan places.
Okay. Okay, anyways, I'm just proving your theory wrong here. You can remember, you're just choosing not to. You've devoted your brain space to important things and not Star Wars.
Correct. That is more accurate. Either way, okay, I like Bespin. It is a farming. I mean, they farmed gas.
I think farm is probably the wrong word. They called it mining.
Oh,
they're
you're
Tabana
right.
gas mining, but still, that's
Tabana gas mining.
I think that's a good.
Sure.
You know, that's a good like.
You want to go office worker or miner?
Ooh, miner with aspirations on working in the home office.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we've got aspirations. We've got future planning for this person. Tangentially, maybe would see Lando once in a while.
Oh, admires Lando for his style and charisma,
For his style,
and his winning smile,
come on.
and yeah, and all of these things that you can very much admire Lando Calrissian for, and he wants to be that way, but he knows that it's going to be tough for him as a rough hand to make his way up the ladder. Okay. So he's got to work. So that's his ambition.
Okay. Do you got just a random thought on a name?
No, absolutely not. And I think that it stays that way for the entire time. No one ever says his name. It's always, hey, you.
So, dude on Bespin.
Yes.
Tabana gas miner. Aspirations for more.
Yeah, trying to navigate the complexities of moving up the corporate ladder while the corporate ladder is a constantly shifting structure, right? Like, first it was Lando, then it was the Empire, then it was Lando again, then presumably it was somebody else. Then I think we see a First Order Star Destroyer crashing at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Presumably the First Order comes in at some point. It sounds like it's a pretty tumultuous time on Cloud City.
So somebody's always at the top, but the goal is to keep the Tabana gas going because that's necessary resource
for anybody in charge.
Hyperdrives, period.
Right. What if he gets in over his head?
Ooh.
Well,
that'd be fun.
Okay, so he is not a real big fan of the Empire, but he is a big fan of feeding his family.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Empire moves in after Lando gets kicked out, he is one of the few... He pretends to be loyal. Oh, pretends to be loyal to the Empire.
Okay.
And so he is quickly shuffled up the ranks in the mining company because the Empire values loyalty over pretty much everything else.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Do you want a subplot where Lando knows where his true loyalties lie and Lando reaches out when Lando's getting ready to come back? Or does that get too deep? He just needs to be a nobody.
I'd say keep that as a B plot, maybe. I think it could be the kind of thing that like there's an email on his data pad, like from Lando.
Right.
But I don't know. That might be too much. I don't know. Maybe it. No. Okay. No. Yes. And I dig that. I like the idea. Was it Lando's idea? He didn't want to. Our hero didn't want to do this, but Lando put him up to it.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Just maintain loyalty to the Empire. Do what they need. Keep this place running. I will be back. That's like the pep talk.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and so then he gets put in. He gets in way over his head. His the Imperial officers are asking him to do things that he absolutely does not want to do, but he also cannot blow this cover.
Right. Agree. Okay. Yeah, I like this direction.
This got way grim. At one point, I was talking about doing a romantic comedy, and now this is like Breaking Bad.
I think there can still be something romantic stuff.
The romantic part is not the part that I was most interested in. It was the comedy part.
Oh, well, that's true. There can still be some of that kind of... All right, let's be fair. I'm not great at writing romantic comedies, mainly because I don't write a whole lot of fiction, mainly because I just don't write stories.
Right. I actually really like this idea a lot. What are some of the situations that he gets put into, Joel?
Okay, so with the Empire, well, obviously it's the Empire, so one of the first situations is increased production, but not necessarily increased staffing or resourcing.
Okay.
So he has to figure out how to meet quotas.
Okay.
There's going to be you got to meet these quotas, and if you don't, you're out. And so in order to maintain his cover, he's got to figure out a way to get other people on the Empire's side without blowing his cover.
Okay. How does he do it?
I almost said bribery, but I don't think that's going to work.
No. He's not a briber type.
No.
He doesn't even know how to spell bribe.
Oh, he's that kind of guy. Okay. Well then, then he tries to do... No, this is kind of a identity finding moment for him. He tries to do things like Lando at that moment. He starts to just try to use charisma, and he just keeps falling on his face, and he's just like, Have you ever seen the TV? There's a newer TV show, the Transformers TV show, where Bumblebee's kind of in charge on Earth. They don't know where Optimus is. And then every single time Bumblebee's trying to get all the other Autobots to roll out, he tries to come up with a new catchphrase, and everybody's like, yeah, that's not your thing. And then Optimus Prime shows up one day and is like, roll out. And they're like, see, that's how you do it. So he just keeps trying over and over, trying to use charisma that he just doesn't have.
Yes.
So it's going to be an identity finding thing. Either one, eventually somebody feels sorry for him who does have the charisma, who does have people on their side, and he has to bare his heart to this one guy, and that guy gets on his side and becomes best friends.
Uh-huh.
Or two, he has to let everybody in on the secret.
Absolutely not. No, definitely the first one. Definitely
That's kind of the direction I was leaning,
Yeah.
but the only other way you actually get people on your side is to let them in on what's going on.
Right. I think he's it's like 3 days before the big, the big deadline, and he is drinking blue milk at the bar one night. And the guy walks up and is like, and figures out he's everybody's friend. This guy's everybody's friend, and he's been established as everybody's friend the whole time. And so he walks up to him in the bar, and he's like, that's nobody drinks blue milk at a bar. Something must really be wrong. And so, yes.
Yes.
They strike up a friendship. and the dude's able to get it, and they pull it together, and that is it. The day is saved, sort of, because the Empire is still getting a lot of Tabana gas, so that's not great.
Now the Empire's getting Tabana gas, but they're trying to figure out a way just to save the place and keep people employed in servitude.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult, but you know what? At least, this is this is hitting some morally gray stuff, which is very good.
I was about to say, and that becomes a plot. Like, if this is a series of shows or episodes or books or graphic novels or whatever, like one whole series of it, or even a reoccurring plot is, are we slaves here or are we employed? We don't know.
I like that. And actually, when you say it like that, I don't think this is the end of our guy's story. I think that there's room for this to develop. So I think that I don't think this can be a movie. I think this has to be a show or
something that's more reoccurring,
or a comic book. Something with serialization.
Absolutely. I like cereal, especially with blue milk. So, that's a dad.
Joel and Uriah's terrible ideas, 100 goofs an hour.
Okay, that's kind of the more serious stuff. Let's start. All right, so he's single at the beginning, and he does have a love interest, another minor or lady who works in the top office. One of the ladies who works in the top office.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons his aspiration is to get up there, because he's like, what? You're not liking this? No, what don't you like?
No, he's driven by his pants.
No. He's driven by his love for Lando. He feels like he could do the job, but he has always been best at the mining. He just knows every single side of that, and so that's where they just keep putting him, even though he's capable of much more. They just keep putting him back in there, and that's why Lando goes to him. He's like, you're the only one that could keep this place running because you know everything else there is to know. Sure. That's why Lando comes to him. Even though he always keeps getting put back in a place where he's really good at doing that stuff, he's always been in love with this one lady and would prefer to work up there so that he could get to know her better.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I did earlier say that he was trying to keep his family fed.
You did.
So we have an important decision to make here. Does he have a previous, smaller, less, with fewer love interests family? Or are we going to nix that and move on to this other thing?
Well, I guess my thought, when I was going to the rom-com, that's what I was thinking. There's got to be the...
Okay,
if you're thinking...
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
If you were thinking rom-com, I'm thinking there's got to be a love interest, because then you've got the awkwardness of trying to figure out how to date somebody.
Yes.
In the middle of all of this.
Yes, and he does have a kid who is away at boarding school on Naboo.
Okay.
And the kid is quirky and becomes an issue in Act 2, like trying to balance the...
Hey, look, it might be stepmom. Meeting.
Exactly. We're moving back into romantic comedy territory. That's a whole episode. There it is. Of like the kid comes back for spring break or whatever. Right. Why you would leave Naboo for Bespin as a teenager? I'm not exactly sure, but we'll we'll figure it out later.
So I mean, I didn't mean to try to force on you the idea of him seeking out a love interest. If we want to go with the family, there's still plenty of sitcom type stuff that can be done with a family.
Yeah.
I mean,
no. I think
we could totally go that direction.
I think the love interest thing is good. I think that it gave us a whole episode out of the kid coming home. So
already we've got 3.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're awesome at this.
We're awesome at this. And most of all the Star Wars series, both seasons of The Mandalorian so far have been 8 episodes. So we're almost halfway there. We're doing good.
Almost. If anybody happens to be listening to this and happens to be a writer or whatever, all of this is copyright Joel and Uriah.
It was copyright the moment we made it. The moment the words came out of our mouth, it was ours.
Yes, don't take it.
Please, pretty please. But also, if you do, that would also...
Give us a call first.
Just give us a call. Or even maybe don't. Just like, it would be kind of cool just to see our story happen.
Right.
Without telling us.
That would be cool.
I'm actually kind of on board with that. So
just float a Benjamin our way or something,
Float a Benjamin.
Woot. It's an old code, sir, but it checks out. That was hilarious. Sorry, off topic. Okay, so he's got a kid. Kid comes home.
Yep. I think I think that could be its own episode, right? Right. That's like episode 7. No, 5. You know, after
feels right.
he's already had some success with the mining stuff and already had some success with the girlfriend situation.
So what other situations are you envisioning?
There's got to be one where he's constantly trying to take a call from Lando. And he's having to go to, right? He's having to he's got a lot of meetings with the Empire, and he's also got to be down in the mine for something, and he's also got to be in the office for something, and he's also getting calls from his daughter about about coming home for spring break. And so he's also trying to take this call from Lando. And so he's having to constantly walk between all the different places, and all of the different things that are happening around him are interfering in their own unique and special ways every time he walks through a door.
Right. I like it. The way you were describing that, I was envisioning a certain episode of Phineas and Ferb where Perry the Platypus keeps getting interrupted by Major Monogram as he's trying to keep his cover with the kids.
Yep.
That kind of a silly, the guy, Lando just pops on at the exact wrong time.
Exactly. Yep.
They're who was that? No, what? Yes. Okay. Right.
Oh, one of the meetings they're having, the Empire is we're getting these weird transmissions from a place called Pisana. Has anybody heard of this place? And he's and he slaps his watch.
Yes.
Right. Where?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of Pisana. Okay, so I think we have 4 pretty good episodes. We can sort of leave the rest to the imagination. I think we have the guts here for a good story.
Right.
Maybe. So we mentioned a TV show. I think it could also be a comic book. Depending on how much goof you can squeeze into one session. But I do feel like I feel like it makes more sense as maybe a mini series.
I agree. Yeah.
Like a one season, 8 episodes, that kind of thing.
Just for fun. Does it end with Lando's return and liberation of the place of Best Cloud City? We got a little bit of that. Or does it just end knowing that that's coming? He gets word, hey, I'm on my way home.
Oh,
that's
a great last line, actually. He gets the call that Lando says he's on his way, and so our hero is able to put his communicator down. He's able to put it down and go have his sunset ending with his daughter and his new girlfriend. And
yes, I love it.
Yeah. Oh,
there it is. Oh,
that's heartwarming. I just got all warm and fuzzy inside.
There you go.
This isn't even a real thing.
That's what we needed right there.
And
if only he had a name.
What's Lando spelled backwards? Odd now.
He is odd now. Yours was much better. My thought was Brian.
I almost said Steve. No, it's got to be, I don't know, something Star Wars-y. It doesn't matter though. His name doesn't matter because that's the whole purpose of this is that he's an everyman.
He's a nobody.
He's nobody.
Bree-on. It's Brian with a hyphen in between. Bree-on.
Yep, there it is.
All right. I like that idea. I think it's an excellent one. At least it's excellent to be terrible.
Yeah. Excellent.
Something that will never see the light of day. We're going to call... You know what? Pause. It has seen the light of day. We just took it out. We just made it... Gave it some little training wheels and pushed it down a hill. And it rode down that small little tiny hill.
Into traffic.
And it was... no, not even into traffic. We had the sunset ending.
Oh, that's true.
You listener just went on a ride with us, and you just now have another story from the Star Wars universe that is not copyright Lucasfilms, but is extended universe. I'm calling it now. Bree-on exists. That's what happened.
I approve. This is okay. Yeah, this is good. We pushed it. We pushed this idea down a hill into traffic. But the idea expertly weaved in and out of said traffic.
Absolutely, it did. Cool.
Except for the lawyers. If we get a call from Lucasfilm lawyers or Disney lawyers, I've no idea what we're talking about. But anyways, I think
all of this. Yeah, if we get a call from Lucasfilm lawyers, all of this happened in another fantastical type universe with somebody named Oddnod Bree-on on a planet Nipseb. Best been backwards.
Perfect. I think that about does it for us for this one. Dear listener, thank you for coming to hang out with us. We'll tell you about all of our socials and all of our where you can find us in just a minute. But for right now, have a great night. I'm Uriah.
And I'm Joel. Thank you for listening.
You're wonderful.
Our intro and outro music is Kingdom by Phantom Sage. You can find them on SoundCloud and No Copyright Sound.
You can find us on Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts and maybe others. I don't know. Check back later.
Hey, if you've got a thought and you want to share it with us, you can email at us at JoelandUriah@gmail.com.
Follow us on Twitter at JoelandUriah or like us on Facebook, Joel and Uriah. Any other dead social media platform, we're probably there too.
And thank you for listening to Joel and Uriah's Terrible Ideas.
We're the ones standing in the sky. We're taking upon our own allies. For all of the rules we abide by. For us to say our final.
I said that you're wonderful about the listener, Joel, not you. You're a jerk.
I know.